Hello, Shakti. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you, Natalia?
I'm very well. Hello, everyone. And here we are. Today, another day of stocks analysis. And we're going to use our platform, StocksDojo. And what is the highlight today? I can tell you that's going to be S&P Global. Massive company, quite unique in this industry, and I'm hearing about this company quite a lot from different investors. Shakti, what do you think about S&P Global?
Well, S&P Global has been around for a while, and we recently tried to work with them to get their ESG scores, and
Yeah,
that's when I found out how much money they're actually making. So when we had the discussion, we realized just to show the ESG score on our app, we'll have to pay them thousands of dollars per year. And then I realized, okay, so their clients are pretty rich and they can pay. And one thing I see about S&P Global, I think maybe I can share my screen while we discuss.
yes, please. And while you are sharing your screen, I want to remind everyone, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe because we will really appreciate that. Searching for S&P Global.
And here,
Okay, beautiful. Here we go. Man, they're expensive. They're really expensive.
so the thing is, uh, on all our metrics for the fair value estimation, we can see that S&P Global has to grow at 15% for the next 5 years for us to get a return of 8%, which is still
Yeah,
fair because the company is growing at close to 15% and they have good
yeah,
cash flow growth also. And S&P Global, as we all know, uh, are the owners of S&P 500 index. And now this S&P 500 index is being used for a lot of ETFs, exchange traded funds, and people use it as the baseline for many analysis when it comes to the stock market. Uh,
yeah.
80% of the US stock market is S&P 500. All the companies that are in the S&P 500 make up to 80% of the overall stock market. So these are the big companies in the US, and there is some criteria to get into the top 500. And I think folks at S&P Global decide which company gets into that 500. Still remember that Tesla a few years back was trying
Yeah.
to get into that list. And even though their market cap was growing, there was some discussion around when to put them in, and eventually they got in. So it's a powerful index, and I believe the company itself gets a lot of money whenever you use their indexes.
How genius it is. Just think of it. Who has created those indexes at the first place?
So, a little bit of background on Vanguard's head, John Bogle. 1970s or so, he was trying to make investors think about the market instead of individual stocks. And
Yeah.
to my surprise, it was not as famous as it is today. In those days, the index was not the go-to for most investors. It actually took a long while for investors to accept the index, and S&P 500 index was pretty famous later on. Even Bogle was surprised that it took so much time for investors to get on it. Now these funds manage trillions of dollars, right? Uh,
Yeah.
so it was not like it was a winner when it was initially introduced. It took some time for people to trust it and start putting their money in it. I did some analysis on the S&P 500 for the past at least 100 years, right? What I noticed was if you had put your money at any point in time in that 100 years, you would have received at least 10x returns in a 30-year time frame. So you pick any year, any date, and then put $1. After 30 years, you would have at least $10, and that is because the S&P 500 has been growing at least 8% every year on average, compounded over 30 years. Even if it was the Great Depression in the 1929 era, that was the
Yeah.
worst time to invest. Even in that case, you would have 10 times your returns. And in the last 30 years, it's almost 20 times. So it's either 10 or more than 10. In some cases, it has been up to 40 times. So S&P 500 index is a great benchmark for any investor to assess how much returns they would expect by investing in the market. So that is why in our app also, if you see, I have given a minimum return expectation of 8%.
Yeah.
So whatever analysis I do, I expect that my individual stock investment should at least give 8%. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense to go into an individual stock.
One thing I want to look at. Can we compare S&P Global with S&P 500? S&P with S&P.
Yeah, isn't it? So here we have this compare with market historical chart. So if I
Yeah.
click on this, you see the chart comparison between S&P 500 and S&P Global for the last 10 years. Of course, S&P Global has done much better than the overall market. It's almost up 500%, right? And if I go
Ooh.
further back, it will be even better. Um, so we got almost 900 plus percent. The starting
Wow.
date we have here is somewhere around 2007, right? So it's been a great company to invest in, and
Yeah.
some of the big investors have put their money in S&P Global. Even today, it is richly valued, but they have a very strong moat. I would be surprised if they wouldn't do well in the future. And also from a dividends perspective, I see the current yield is low because the stock is highly valued, but at the same time the dividend CAGR has been close to 10% and 11% over the last 5 and 10 years. So extraordinary dividend growth recently. So all that looks good for the company from an investment perspective.
Yeah. One thing that I have noticed that they have really high goodwill and intangible assets. They have much more intangible than tangible in the company. So, uh, is it like company made of air? Or how does it work?
So what is goodwill? What is your understanding of goodwill?
Usually it's high for acquisition companies. Whenever you purchase another company, right, you pay for the asset, you have the liability, equity, you just add everything to your balance sheet, right? But you usually pay for the company a little bit extra, and
Really?
that extra goes to goodwill.
Yeah.
So it's like you are getting milk from the shop, but you are buying a little bit more for that milk than the company spent to produce that milk and deliver to you. So, and that extra, that would be goodwill.
If you purchase the milk company, I mean, it's specifically for companies who are purchasing other companies or merging with other companies, to use the right term. So that is not a common occurrence. You wouldn't find many companies with a goodwill which is very close to their shareholder equity. In this case, the shareholder equity is 33 billion, and the goodwill is actually more than that. In most cases,
Yeah.
companies will buy other companies, merge with them, pay a goodwill on top of their purchase price, but then it wouldn't be as high as you see here. It's all more than 100% of the shareholder equity.
That's what I wanted to ask you. What do they put in that goodwill? They have quite high intangible asset as well. I don't know if you have it here, but they have intangible asset on top of the of that $35 billion. Another, I think, 15 or even more $billion, just
Yeah,
from my
so
memory.
that is the intangible asset of S&P Global itself, right? So S&P Global itself has its own set of intangible assets. Different companies have different versions of it. IP is one
Yeah.
of them. Uh, but Goodwill is specific to mergers and acquisitions. And it was good that you found S&P Global as a candidate for this analysis. And considering that, if the goodwill uh, is impaired, there is something called goodwill impairment. If that occurs, then the shareholder equity value will start eroding, right? If goodwill starts going down, since
Yeah.
most of the equity is on goodwill, the equity will also go down. This company, as we mentioned earlier, has a great moat, and they make a lot of money. And if you see the revenues, they're making 14 billion, good net income, earnings per share is good, operating cash flow is good. Since they have a good business, it shouldn't be a big issue unless there is a major goodwill impairment in the future.
How can it happen? For
Well,
in the case of S&P Global, so let's say I'm an investor and I'm interested in purchasing some stocks of S&P Global. So I do want to know everything, including risks. I do want to know what's the worst case scenario can happen. So how can it happen in this case?
Well, I would assume that one of their merged assets doesn't perform the way it's supposed to. There could be various reasons behind that. Could also be an ethical concern in one of their subsidiaries, which could tarnish the image of the entire company. Underperformance of their acquisitions is one of the reasons the goodwill could be eroding. When you buy something, you're hoping that it will add value to your own company.
Yeah.
If that business doesn't turn out the way you expected, then that could lead to impairment. That will erode the goodwill number. It will be a cause of concern for the investors. But again, these are rare scenarios, but still could happen.
What you think regarding ESG rating, which S&P Global is providing? I know that there are some controversies. Would
Yeah, there is
you?
always a debate around the accuracy of the number that they provide because there is one number for ESG or
Yeah.
a cumulative number. And then how do you know if that number explains everything that you need to know about the ESG activities of a certain company? These days, ESG is being pushed very hard as a metric to check whether a company is good or bad, right? Now, if a company has a high ESG score, the assumption is okay, they are doing well on the sustainability aspects of things, which also covers your governance, environment, and social activities. It's possible that these scores might look good for bigger companies because they have the resources to work with someone like S&P Global and provide all the answers that they are looking for. I don't know how good the answers are, so it's all debatable. What's your opinion?
When you look at top ESG performers according to S&P Global, who would it be? It would be large technology companies which have resources and they don't have that many environmental risks. Talking about S&P Global, and if we go to our ESG rating assessment, I just want to probably highlight what would be the most important metrics for them. What do you think? What do they need to focus on in order to prosper?
Industry innovation, that's important because I believe data analytics is a key factor for this company, and whatever
That's right.
they do has to be at the cutting edge, and I believe that's what they're doing. And decent work and economic growth within the company for their employees and also all the stakeholders who are associated with them. Then
Yeah.
reduce inequalities within the company, giving access to all without any prejudice. And then you have gender equity
Yeah.
partnership. They partner with so many other stakeholders. So these are the items that I would look for. What is your thought? Anything else that you see?
I would say probably education would be quite important as
Yeah,
well for them.
yeah,
I agree 100% on partnership. because they're more like focused on working with others. And then absolutely regarding industry innovation, then decent work and economic growth. Well, there is also another thing which I actually think quite important for S&P Global, that is related to reduced inequality. And I just tell you my opinion. You brought that point that the bigger the company, the higher rating the company has. So, and S&P Global is basically the company who is deciding who goes into S&P 500 and who doesn't go there. Responsibility on the company to make it equal for everyone. Well, in this regards, I believe that probably it would be great for S&P Global to have a little bit more thoughts on how to make it equal for everyone.
That is why I didn't give a rating better than 5, because certain items we don't know, right? Certain we are aware of how they are doing. So I have rated only those items. Do you see any other changes that we have to apply?
No, not really. I think less is more. It's better to focus on just 3-4 main items, and companies probably should focus not on everything and don't try to save the world at once.
Yeah, so when I check our perception, it's like above 50 for all three metrics. And that is something good because they are doing good in some areas. They could be doing a bit worse in the other areas which we're not aware of.
Yeah. Thank you, Shakti. So this is how we rated the company who is rating everyone.
Yeah. So now
So,
whether the company is a good investment or not is dependent on all these factors and the user's own opinion. So yeah,
do you want to buy a bit of intangibles with Goodwill? So S&P Global might be a good choice for you. Thank you, Shakti.
okay.
And talk to you soon again. Bye, everyone.